Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Wisdom Wednesday for this week. So, you are going to be seeing me look off to the side here, real quick. I'm just making sure that the broadcast actually is going live this time because the last time I tried to do this, it did not work. But it does appear right now that it is going live. So, that is good that it's going live. So, for this week, remember we are this is our Wisdom Wednesday, which is our generalized sharing of spiritual tools. And so today, what I'm going to be sharing is a practical spiritual tool. Because to me, if spirituality isn't practical, then it's not spiritual. Anything that represents complexity is always of the ego. We don't want complexity, we want simplicity, because simplicity is where spirit lives. It lives in simplicity. So today's topic is returning to wonder. And it's actually a twofold broadcast for today. So we are going to be talking about two ways or two spiritual tools in one this week. But before I do that, what I'm going to be doing is I'm just going to be sharing this out quickly. So for those of you that are also sharing, I thank you so much for sharing, and I thank you so much for being here. And like I said, this is just our generalized generalized energy forecast, which it is not. This is just our generalized spiritual tool that we are using for this week. So like I said, I am just sharing this out to my different pages, and I invite you to do the same if you wish. So there we go. We're just posting that there. And then we'll just post it to my other groups here in just a second, if it will let me. Let's see. Will you let me? Yes. Okay, there it is. So we'll just share it to this group right here. And we're going to paste it there. Wonderful. And then we're going to share it to my other group that I have, or that I'm a part of. Excuse me. And then we will get started. Just pasting it there. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and we are going to get started on our spiritual tool for this week. So when it comes to wonder, we have a tendency to go into our I know mind. I know what's going to happen. I know how this is going to play out. I know. Well, if we go ahead and we continue to say, I know, guess what's going to happen? Just like we talked about last week, we get the grand prize of being right about that. So if you know that this person just isn't going to show up on time, well, then guess what? You get the grand prize of being right about that. If you are saying that you know how something is going to play out because it looks exactly the same as it did last time, then guess what? You get the grand prize of it working out exactly like it did last time. We want to step in to this state of wonder, and we can use childlike wonder. Now, when it comes to that, when people hear childlike wonder, they think that, that means being childish. And that's not really what childlike wonder is. Childlike wonder is basically, consider like a child on Christmas. And they are so excited. And they're not wondering, how their parents paid for something. They're not wondering possibly like what they're going to get. Instead, what they're wondering is, it's more about, I wonder what wonderful, fabulous thing is going to happen. I wonder how Santa's magic works. I wonder about this. But it's with the expectation, or it's not even the expectation, it's with the expectancy that something good is going to happen. We have a tendency to instead wonder how it can go wrong, how bad things are going to happen, and how nothing just ever works out for us. and how it's just going to fail, how it's not going to work. We actually have a really hard time wondering about the positive, wondering how the universe is going to support us, wondering how our guides are going to show up for us, wondering how the abundance is going to show up. And in that wondering, I wonder how it's going to show up with the expectation that it's going to, but you just don't know how. Once again, consider, a child. When you tell them you're going on a field trip, you're going somewhere, they're going to be super excited about it. They don't necessarily know where they're going or what they're doing. You just said you're going on a field trip, and they are ecstatic. They are excited. They can't wait to join you. They can't wait to be there in that moment because they are wondering in that beautiful way that they do of saying, I wonder what great, wonderful thing is going to happen. And they know it's going to be something good for them. They just are already anticipating it's going to be something great. It's going to be something wonderful. That's where we need to be. That's what we need to start wondering about. Like I said, we have a really big tendency to wonder more about what could go wrong, how it could go wrong. That's something we need to be willing to step out of, which then kind of leads us into the second part of our spiritual tool, which is, of course, using affirmation. Now, a lot of us have heard of affirmations. A lot of us probably use affirmations. But here is the biggest key I've learned when it comes to affirmation. You could go ahead and you could say an affirmation 700,000 times. And eventually it's going to get into your head. Eventually that's something you're going to start to believe. But why wait for eventually? We want to instead use words, use phrases, symbols, whatever it is you want to use for your affirmation, that you want to use those things that you actually believe in, that you can actually trust in whatever small way you want to do that. But that's what we have to begin to do. You could say the affirmation, but if you don't believe it, if there's not an energy behind it, it's just a bunch of empty, pretty words. I mean, they may be the best words that you could think of, but if you don't believe them, they're empty. They have no energy behind them. They have no emphasis behind them. And so we have to begin that process of, okay, what feels good to me? And maybe it's not necessarily, maybe you want to work with prosperity. And in working with prosperity, maybe there's a blockage there. Maybe you're just having a really hard time believing that you can be prosperous, believing that you could be abundant, whatever the case may be. So instead of being like, I'm abundant, I am wealthy, instead start with words, start with symbols, start with phrases that feel good to you at first, that don't have a lot of resistance, that don't have a lot of backstory to them, that can start helping you incrementally, just for right now, to get to where you want to start to be. And that once again brings us back to that sense of wondering about it. Oh, I wonder what beautiful words I can use. I wonder how this can happen. And remember, in that wonder, it's not wondering how is it going to happen. It's not wondering when it's going to happen. It's not wondering where it's going to happen. It's simply just being in that state of, I wonder how the universe will support me. I wonder how the universe is going to show me abundance. I wonder about that instead of this is how it has to show up. And if it doesn't show up this way, then we have this whole big story about it. That's something we want to release. That's something that we want to let go of in whatever way, shape, or form feels best to us and whatever practice feels best for us. But, when it comes to this, I always love to use, personal parables from my life in order to kind of give you examples of how these things can work. So something that I say for myself, and you do not have to use this. It's not like these are the magic words that are going to solve, every issue, every problem. These are just words that feel good to me and that I have used and have seen great progress with. And so for me, in the morning, I go outside, I walk my dog for a quick little 10 minutes. So he has his first little morning pee break. And as I'm walking him, what I say to myself is, everything is always working out for me. For God walks with me. Not God walks with me, not because of who I am, but because of what I am. What am I? Spirit am I, free of all limits, safe and healed and whole, innocent and provided for, in all ways, free to forgive and free to save the world. Hello, Monica, and a Merry Christmas to you as well. And so that's where, for me, that's what I use. And so those are words that feel good to me. That's something that I can really affirm and say, yes, everything is working out for me. And so that's something that I say, and I begin to see the results of that. And the personal parable I want to tell you is that for this Christmas, normally we do a Christmas breakfast. My dad will, make us French toast, or he'll make pancakes and bacon and so forth and so on. But this year, we have switched it up, and we're going to have a Christmas dinner. And actually, I am the one who is preparing that Christmas dinner. So I'm very excited about that I get to infuse all the food with all the love, the joy, the excitement of, being able to provide for everyone. And so this year I wanted to do basically individual steaks for everyone. So I went to the grocery store and, I got these, the steaks, the individualized packets of steaks. But I thought, you know what I want? I don't want, a New York strip steak. I want a filet mignon. Like, that's what I would like. That's something that would bring me joy. And so what I did was I went over there and there were none at all. And I thought, oh, that's unfortunate. But for me, I reminded myself, well, everything's always working out for me. So there was a stalker nearby who was, stocking the shelves. And I said, do you have any fillets? And he said, well, no, I don't, but you can go to the counter and see if they have any there. So I went over to the counter and I said, do you have any fillets? And he was like, yeah, sure we do. What are you looking for? So I told him, and then I saw the price. I was like, ooh, that's a little more than I wanted to spend. And so he puts it up there, and I was just going to say, just forget it. So right there, already having this belief in lack, scarcity, so forth and so on. So I reminded myself, everything is always working out for me. And how does it get any better than this? Because I found a great deal on the other steaks. And so right there, what am I doing? I have opened myself to wonder. I've opened myself to an experience of saying, well, I don't necessarily know how this is going to work out. I'm willing to be shown how it's going to work, and I'm willing to be shown how it's going to work out for me in whatever way. And so he puts it onto the little measuring thing, and as he does that, the price pops up of $10. And I was like, but it says 25 here, but you're telling me it's only 10? And I said, thank you so much. He wished me a happy holidays. I said, happy holidays to him as well. And so I got this filet mignon for $10. And I thought, wow, thank you so much. Everything is always working out for me. So reminding myself of that, and then opening myself up to wonder, how does it get any better than this? And just asking that question opens me up to wondering how else the universe is going to support me. Really consider, when you wake up in the morning, is your first thought, I wonder how the universe is going to support me today, or I wonder how spirit will guide me today, or I wonder what blessings the universe will pour upon me today, or my angels will bring me, my guides will bring me. I can say a good majority of the time that's probably not our thoughts. I'm going to say probably a good majority of the time, our thoughts are like, oh, what do I have to do throughout the day? And how do I have to provide for myself? And how do I have to figure this out? And so forth and so on. Instead of being in that state of receptivity. Now, this does not mean that, you just go around and you don't do anything. There are still steps to take, and Spirit will guide you for those steps. But if you open yourself to that state of wonder, to that state of not expecting. I don't want to use that word. What I want to use instead is we can either step into expectancy or we can step into expectation. So expectation is not where we want to be, because expectation says that we have a plan, we have an agenda, we're saying how we want it to show up, when we want it to show up, why we want it to show up, so forth and so on. Expectancy, on the other hand, which is in that state of wonder, we're simply wondering, how is the universe going to support me? I don't know how, I don't know when, I don't know where, why, how. All I'm doing is simply knowing that it's going to show up. I don't know how it's going to show up. I don't know when it's going to show up, but it is going to reveal itself if I'm willing to step into that. If I'm still in this expectation of how I think things should go, then right there, I can already see that I've closed my mind to all other possibilities. And so that's why, for me, you're very welcome. It's always a pleasure. That's why, for me, I always, if I start to find myself going into like, I know, from that ego standpoint of, I want to be right, then I automatically can see, okay, I've closed myself off to the infinite possibilities that are always around me, always there for me. But I've closed myself off to it because I've closed myself off to wonder. I've closed myself off to the infinite that is there. I don't know how the universe is going to support me. I don't know how everything's going to work out for me. That's not my job. My job is to simply be in that expectancy, knowing that it's going to happen. And that's something that's really key. So if you want to, and a Merry Christmas to you as well. So if you do find yourself, beginning to, if you want to start saying, everything is working out for me, great, wonderful, use it, fantastic. However, be aware if there is an agenda behind it. Are you really in a state of wonder, or are you in that state where you're saying, well, everything works out to me according to my plan? Because if you're in that, that's an ego perception, and that's something we want to step out of. I don't know how everything's going to work out for me. I don't know necessarily what that looks like. I'm just in that state of being willing to know that it's going to. Something else that I don't even consciously say anymore. Thank you, and a very Merry Christmas to you as well. For you, actually, it would be a belated Happy Hanukkah. So for us, what we want to do is, like I was saying, is for me, it's not even really a conscious thought anymore. I just now expect myself to get good parking spaces. Like wherever I go, I just know a wonderful parking space is just going to show up. I don't know how it's going to show up. I don't know when it's going to show up, but I am just in that expectancy of I'm going to show up somewhere and a wonderful parking is going to show up for me. And every time a wonderful parking shows up for me. Now we just need to bring that in, and that's something I'm practicing as well, which is why I use everything is always working out for me. Not for God walks with me, not because of who I am, but because of what I am, and then into the what I am, reminding myself of the truth of who I am on a consistent basis. So that way I'm always reminding myself that I am, spirit am I, free of all limits, safe, healed, whole, innocent, provided for, in all ways, free to forgive and free to save the world, reminding myself of that on that consistent basis. Once again, I'm not telling the universe how it needs to show up, how it needs to support me. I'm merely wondering how that's going to show up. I wonder how that's going to show up. Wow, I wonder how the universe will support me today. And that's where we want to step into that wonder and step out of the I know mind. Because the I know mind is really just the ego pulling from the past and saying, well, because this situation looks very similar to another situation that I was in, this is going to be the outcome because it looks very similar to this other situation. Just because it looks similar to the other situation does not mean that it's going to work out the same way. That's where we engage wonder. I wonder what is going to happen. I wonder how it's going to support me in whatever way. I don't know. I have no idea how the universe will support me or how it's going to show up. I'm just willing to wonder about it without an agenda. And I know I keep harping on that, but that's because we all have agendas. And we have to be willing to acknowledge that we have them and be willing to release them. Because if we're not, then when things don't, quote unquote, work out for us in the way that we planned, we're going to start believing and we're going to start affirming to ourselves that things don't work out for us, that maybe not everything always will work out for us. No, everything is always working out for me. Everything is always working out for me. Yeah, it's just going with that flow and allowing yourself to do that. But that's, once again, it's that allowance. It's that permission slip. And if you need affirmation, use affirmation. But remember, when it comes to affirmation, it's using words, symbols, whatever, that feel good to you. not just that work for everyone else. You change the words to what works best for you or what is in alignment with your belief system. Maybe you don't like the word God. That's okay. Use higher power. Maybe you don't like the word angels. Then use guides. Maybe you don't like guides. Maybe you like ancestors. Maybe you like divine consciousness, divine compassion. Whatever it is, like just use that. But use the words that feel good to you. Not that just because it worked for someone else that you need to use those exact words. That's when we're falling into a trap because that's not what we want to do. We don't want to fall into that trap. So, let's see here. So that is really what I wanted to talk about for today is step number 1. Be willing to acknowledge when you are in your I know mind. If you're saying, I know how this is going to work out, I know what's going to happen, and because it's coming from the past or because you're willing to sit because you don't believe that everything's going to work out for you, because nothing ever works out for you, so forth and so on. If you're on that track, we want to stop. And we want to say, okay, instead, I'm willing to let that go. That was a track, and I don't want to be on that track because that track doesn't feel good. So what does feel good? So we use an affirmation, whatever feels good for us. And then we begin to wonder. And maybe we just begin to wonder, okay, so how is the universe going to support me? How can the universe show me a different perception of this? Or how would love see this? How would my guides see this? How could they inform me in this? How could they guide me through this? I wonder how they're going to show up for me. And then from there, we stay in that state of wonder. We stay in that state of, okay, I'm wondering how. I don't know what's happening, but I'm just willing. And that's all we have to do. We just continuously allow ourselves to do that. If I can get a filet mignon that was normally $25 for $10, once again, how does it get any better than this? Everything is always working out for me. Everything. And I even have almost all my family, because I say it all the time. I say it when I'm with them. I say it when I'm out in public. It does not matter to me. I'm going to affirm it. I'm going to let everybody know that everything is always working out for me. And so when something good happens, they're just like, oh, we know because everything's working out for you. And I say, that's right. Everything's always working out for me. And so they have kind of gotten into that habit as well. So now they're affirming it to me when good things happen. Or even when things start, they're like, oh, we stop. Everything's going to work out. I'm like, exactly. We don't know how, but everything's going to happen. Another great example, we have a family vacation planned for the summer. Super excited. Something that we've never done before. Got it all planned out, got the finances all figured out, paid for it, got the itinerary, and one person wasn't on there. Like to go to the vacation, we're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I mean, they got the plane, but there were certain amenities that their name wasn't on. And we were like, whoa, what's happening here? So what do? Well, I wonder how the universe is going to support me. I wonder how the universe can, help with this in whatever way, shape, or form. I wonder how there's going to be a peaceful resolution to this. Just once again, just a gentle wondering. I just wonder about it. I know it's going to happen. I don't know how. I'm in that expectation of something wonderful is going to happen. A peaceful outcome is assured because everything's always working out for me. Because how does it get any better than this? And we call and they were like, oh, so sorry about that. Fixed. Now, do we have to wait on the phone for a couple minutes? Yes. But to get it fixed in literally the matter of, oh, this person's name's not on there and we're kind of curious why. And then, oh, it must have been a mistype. We're so sorry. Immediately fixed. No extra money, no extra anything. Just, it's fixed. Oh, thank you so much. Done. So just being in that, wonder. If you don't do anything else, wonder about, like I said, wonder about how the universe is going to support you. Wonder how the universe can show up for you. Wonder about those things. Don't stay stuck in the everything, nothing ever works out for me, or I can't do this, or I can't do that. Be willing to stop, acknowledge, I'm running a tape that doesn't need to run anymore. I'm willing to let that tape go, and I'm willing to replace that tape. There's going to be a little bit of that resistance, but that's why I'm going to use words that are going to help me to incrementally get to where I want to go. But I have to find those words that resonate with me for where I want to be. Maybe it's not where I am, but it's at least the next step up. So be willing to do that. And then once you're at that step, then you use new words, and then you use new words and new words. And then pretty much there's not going to be a need for words anymore, because you're going to be in that state on a consistent basis. So I thank you for joining me. I thank you for being here. Once again, if you are curious about me or my services, you can always go check out my website, awakeningmiracles.org. And the link is actually in the description of the video.